Welcome to part 2 of tar, plaster, paper, and fabric. At this point, I've let this piece dry for a couple of days. As you can see, it's pretty dry to touch. Even when I push into some of those thicker areas, it's not coming off on my fingers. All of the material in the paper has stuck fast, and the plaster, as I was hoping, as it mixes with the tar, it creates kind of a crackle effect and slides around a little bit, but once it dries, it tends to be pretty set on there. So at this point, I decided to go ahead and finish this piece off with some encaustic. I wanted to keep the color palette fairly simple for now, so I am just starting off here by adding a little bit of encaustic. I have not put encaustic on top of tar very often. I don't know very many artists out there that do it, so I don't have a lot of experience with it. So this is a little bit of an experiment. At first I was trying to keep it off of the tar as much as possible, but I did have it cover the tar in a few places a little bit. So I went ahead and put a light coat on it just to kind of see what it would do. I think it probably isn't good to have that tar sealed, at least that's my instinct, because it probably needs to breathe over time. So if I did get a heavy amount or more than maybe what I thought I should, I did go back and scrape it off. And it did pull a little bit of the tar out with it, just so you know that that was happening. Again, I don't have a lot of feedback on this, or I'm not sure how it's all going to work. I'm kind of just experimenting. But that's how this is going. I also pulled out these I had made some rust stained fabrics and papers and cardstock, and I have this piece here that I decided to go ahead and add onto here, just to give it a little more character. After I placed a little encaustic on the piece, I went ahead and soaked the cardstock in the encaustic, and then I'm putting it kind of warm to warm, and I gave that a little bit of a brayer there, pushing it down and securing it, and then gave it a light fuse. So now I'm just going ahead and adding a little more encaustic on top of it to seal it in there. Been sitting with this piece for a couple of days now, and I did add some things to it after I shut the camera off. So although you'll see some of the semi-finished pictures at the end of this video, I'll have more finished pictures of it over on my Instagram page. And I'm trying to decide if I want to go back and maybe even add a little bit of color to it with some oil and cold wax or some other pigment in order to add a little more color. A little bit undecided. I'm just kind of sitting with the piece to decide if I want to do that or not. But in this particular video, like I said, at the very end, I'm going to add some garnishes to it, which I don't necessarily do on camera because I'm using my hammer and stuff. But I do show you what it looks like at that point, and after that decided to add a little more. So some pieces I just keep fiddling with them over time. After I got that piece burnished on there and secured, I went ahead and covered it up with some encaustic and then scraped some of it back. And at this point I have the edges pretty sealed in there, and now I'm just making some marks. And in keeping with the tar theme, I'm going to go ahead and add some tar to kind of color the piece in a little bit. I decided that I wanted to try to have a little bit of gold and a little bit of white on all of the sides that I was finishing. So on each one I'm adding a little bit of those two colors, and then I did go ahead and pull out some more fabric and added some fabric areas to the piece, just again to add a little more interest. And I will go ahead and put these on with the encaustic and then create a little bit of texture with them and cover those up with the tar mixture as well. Every time I kept picking my piece up off of these pillars that I have them on, it kept sticking, and then I realized that I had some just pieces of encaustic on those boards down there. Sometimes I like to use those because when the whole flat piece lays on my silicone, then the whole thing wants to stick. And not often, but once in a while, if it's too warm as I'm flipping it around, it can pull some of it back off of there. And so generally I will work on blocks sometimes to help let the piece continue to cool. I found this fabric at a thrift store. I don't even know what it is. I do know it's cotton, but I just love how it interacts with the encaustic. I can do so many different things with it. So I try to use it when I can and in small pieces usually, because I'm generally working fairly small, but when it runs out I'll be kind of sad. I probably need to take it to a fabric store and find out what the material is. Hopefully somebody could tell me. But I really like it. It has a opacity to it that lets you see through what's behind it, but it just gives it a really neat texture. So at this point I'm kind of cleaning it up, and I decided that I wanted to put a skeleton key on the piece. So I'm going to be finishing this last side here and then placing on some metal garnishes as well as a skeleton key, which again I do off camera because I'm hammering and stuff. It's very loud and shakes the table. But then after I did that, like I said, I did go ahead and apply a little more interest in wire to the piece, which you can see over on my Instagram page. I want to thank you for watching today as I wind this up. And if you have not given me a subscribe, please feel free to do that. And again, leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Thank you so much for watching today.